One life with the fellas.
One life with the fellas.
Ooh, one life with the fellas is about to come on, y'all.
Maybe it's me, maybe it's that, no. Maybe it did, maybe it white, maybe it black, no. Maybe it mid. I'm from the mud, I'm from the mud. I got it all from the grid, taking the rig, taking the rig, taking the rig. Maybe it's me, maybe it that, no. Maybe it did, maybe it white, maybe it black, no. Maybe it mid. I'm from the mud, I'm from the mud. I got it all from the grid, taking the rig, taking the rig, taking the rig.
One life with the fellas.
Yo, we back once again. Episode 9, man. What's good, fellas?
What up?
Bro? What's going on?
You can't call him, man. Glad to be above ground, man. We know we missing one of our bros, man, but he gonna get in here a little bit shortly. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward. So whenever he gets ready to come on, we're gonna chime him in and keep things flowing with the show. As y'all know, man, we've been shifting gears. With the show, we've been we started a couple of weeks ago with our last show on episode 8 dealing with mental health. And we thank our guests that we had on, Shamika Brock and Melissa Faison. I think I pronounced it right.
Yeah.
Faison Withers. I'm sorry. Appreciate them for coming on, man, and sharing some some insightful things, man, as far as dealing with mental health, giving us two different areas as far as their expertise with it. So we definitely appreciate them. So for this episode, man, we wanted to continue on with the concept of killing the stigma that's killing us, which again we talk about with mental health. With this part 2, we wanted to deal with a topic that has, I know for me, I didn't know it'd been around as long as it has been. Like it's been around for over 40 years, and that's the critical race theory. And so our topic for tonight, man, is dealing with that and how it mentally is affecting us. And when we say us, Black people of color. Us yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So we're gonna dive into it, man. So of course, before we get into anything, for those that may be watching who may not know what critical race theory is, so I found a little definition of it, or at least a synopsis of this article. It was on edweek.org. So this is nothing in my own words. I'm taking credit for this is my definition. We all been taught that's called plagiarism, right? Yeah. Nico, you remember that paper, man, you did in college, man? That teacher tried to get you for plagiarism.
Yeah, she definitely tried to get me, bro.
Hey, bring him in.
All right, bring him in. Bodie, what's good, bro?
What's good, bro?
What's up, man?
Yeah, we were just talking about Nico. Almost got kicked out of AU1 for plagiarism.
Man, I had to do so much stuff for that to prove I wasn't plagiarizing and stuff, man. Like, come on, bro.
That was crazy, man. But yeah, man. So we're gonna dive into it, man. So like I said, with the article, it says critical race theory is more than 40 years old, with the core idea that race is a social construct and that racism is not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, but also something embedded in legal systems and policies. Now, it's a nice overall educational definition. But for the round table, if y'all had to put critical race theory into your own terms, for those of us that sit in the back, that don't pay attention to all those syllables I just read, how can you break it down, man? How would you put that critical race theory?
Man, I say it's a way of showing that, for one, the systems that are in place in America, be it the legal system, the education system, most things that are prominent or that are built on this nation is built on, founded on, it has a lot to do with racism and keeping a certain group of people down or oppressed. In other words, that's what I would say. So, in my own words.
Trying to see that more reading off somewhere. That sound intelligent. What about y'all, man? Y'all got anything to add to it?
To me, I say critical race theory is America. as a whole, because America was founded on race and attempting for one group to be superior and to make themselves seem superior. Hence, like the reason it's not taught, or they're trying to fight so hard against it right now.
Okay. Barney, you got anything, man?
Yeah, I pretty much kind of agree with kind of what everybody else is saying, right? It's no, I don't think there's any debate about whether it exists, right? Whether there's a group of people somewhere with a lot of power, right? And potentially those are their great grandfathers or great grandfathers were some of those who founded this country, right? Or they've come into power some kind of way, and kind of like what Nico said, right? It was this country was founded on racism. I think that can also be translated into nowadays speaking also classism as well. So it's a combination of both racism and classism. But you know, when we think of poor people, we automatically think, well, they must be black, right? So, but in actuality, that's not. If you were to look at some of the numbers nowadays, you know, the poor people now make up all different type of races, make up that particular class, right? So, yeah, it just it translates different nowadays than what it would maybe have been when it was just solely race based, like the color of your skin based. I'm sure just looking at the screen today, none of us would have passed that brown paper bag test back in the day to get anything or get in the door anywhere, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how my perception of how I perceive it in today's thinking, and I also think that people should be educated on it, right? So you need to know, right? I think even if because you don't have that side of people who think, well, nah, racism doesn't exist, right? Or racism doesn't exist, or on the lines of it's can't we just move past racism, right? So if we don't have the conversation, or if we stop saying the word racism, right, then it will all just go away. It's a part of our it's now a part of our past and our culture, so we have to deal with that. It has shaped some of our ways, whether we want to realize it or not. Like, it's molded our traditions and the way we do things. Even, I think Demeric had put me on this documentary on Netflix, The Hog, right? Y'all
High on the Hog,
right?
Yeah,
High on the Hog. But
did you watch it? You watched it?
Yeah. I've been watching. I've been making my way through it, but back in the day, my grandma used to tell me that, man, we eat all parts of the hog, right? And think about just where that came from, right? We potentially got the scraps of what was left over from the table, and that was leftover. One of the worst things. I don't want to be long-winded here, but I'll say this: one of the worst things I hate to eat or hate, like, I know people might like them, but like what they call them, chitlins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, that's one part of that animal I would never want to eat.
That's fine. That's fine.
They had to do what they had to do, man.
Nah, man.
Ain't nobody eating no chitlins, man.
Man, ain't wrong with a little intestines, man.
And they're wrong, man.
I'm cool.
No, yeah, sorry for the long answer, man, but that kind of hit me hard. That's like a hot subject for me, man.
Hey, but you know what though? Hey, we want you to get the people going, man. So we appreciate that. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, I really don't have nothing too much more to add, man. I think for me, I guess just from the educational standpoint of it, man, anything that we're not educated about, it predicates us to be fools about anything that we try to put out put a step forward into, right? So
Right.
you think about us as a people as a whole, when we hear, and we had talked about this before the show, the whole crab in the bucket mentality, and we'll touch on that in a second. Supporting black businesses, how we will throw them under the bus quicker than we'll do somebody else owns a white business and everything like that. Even questioning the credibility of HBCUs and everything, right? Because they are predominantly and were founded basically for us. Because at that time, when most and all HBCUs were founded, we didn't have any educational places or higher ed that was geared for us. So, like to Bonnie's point, it does affect us now. That's why we have the topic, how this stuff affects us yesterday, in the past, currently, today, and even tomorrow. And so for me, man, I think, and I brought it up. Y'all know I had to bring it up in class, man. So I brought it up in my class today, and and I kind of segued to where I had everybody kind of doing something with it. So I asked a general question. One student had to do that. Another student had to give me when it was founded. Who does it affect? And then to our next point, why does Governor Kay Ivey of Alabama wants to ban it, or has went on record and said this thing is banned? We're not focusing on hate. We are focusing on our children learning how to read and write. So
Grandma K got 1 foot in the grave already, man.
Right. So it's funny, and what I was trying to get my kids to understand in class, they're like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, we want to read and write. With that, we know that's important. But like, Nico, the point you brought up, Alabama is currently 41st,
Yeah,
41 in the country when it comes to education. So I guess I get her point, and one of us to focus on reading and writing. I get
we're
it.
focusing on all these other years though. Like,
Right. So my thing is, man, what I was trying to get kids to understand, I said, I put it in the context. I said, look where we're living. We're in the South. So the South has been, notoriously known for, its racism and bigotry and everything of that sort since its existence. And we still see some of those things right now. Like, of course, like I said, I work in an alternative school. So those kids come on there, they be quick to yell out, man, they racist over there. All them teachers racist. They don't like black folks. I'm like, all right, yeah, okay, cool. So, my thing is like, okay, y'all, some of y'all, you may have a valid argument, but let's get down to the context of it though. Why are we always screaming it out at the first concept of things? Well, we know sometimes we're doing some things halfway as well. And a lot of that does come back to the fact that, man, that we're just not educated enough to realize that there are more things about us that we need to know that can have us to look at each other completely different. And not just take on the word of every other person that's not of the same color as me and taking their word and say, hey, that's what it must be. And
right.
and you're foolish to believe that because you don't know anything else about you. So I asked him, I said, so, if that's the case, and to Bettina's point, we can't move forward if we don't understand the past. And that's exactly what I brought to them today in class. I said, so how can we be able to do that? So I said, with that being the case, and I'm asking y'all the same question, what is the purpose? What's the real reason that Governor Kay Ivey is banning critical race theory from Alabama as far as being put in education systems? What is a real reason of doing it? And why is this theory just up under so much heat anyway in general?
If I may, I'll go first, but let me scroll back up because I really wanted to get this comment in because it really explains that answer. Said they don't want the sins of their ancestors to be told in the correct context. So I'm saying that there is a degree of guilt that they or their children will feel as a result of CRT. I get that. Cool. However, you should probably learn it so that we can't make the same mistakes over and over again. And what's so bad about it that you want to hide, like, that made you come up with the whole plan, like, we can't teach this. And then to go on as far as say it's a college level class, like, so. And then I read something else earlier
So
that's like,
it's English.
right. I read something else that said it hasn't really been taught as they're trying to make it seem like it's taught all the time. It hasn't been taught. So why are you taking such a push right now to not teach it? Like, what are you really trying to or what do you don't want the people to know? Like, do you really want to just keep it the way it was? Because maybe it may cause a guilt trip for some people, but some people may realize, hey, this was wrong, and this is why the world is the way it is, and maybe I can start changing that once I know all the facts and learn about everything that happened the way it actually happened, not the way you want to give it to me.
Man, I'm gonna take it to a deeper, probably too deep, but I'm gonna take it there. Let's collect all the Bibles in the world and set them on fire. Right? How do you erase the past? How do you get people to forget everything? Right? We gotta, one, erase all documentation of it. Two, we gotta also stop teaching it. Meaning we gotta get it away from the mindset, or like you say, we want to get it out of the minds of our youth, because they're the ones that are gonna carry this legacy on. Right? They're the ones that are gonna remember the future. A lot of times for us in Black America, we don't sit our kids down and tell them about the past, right? Because it's a lot of times it's too hard for older people to talk about it. One thing, I tried to sit down with my grandma one day and asked, I said, why you don't talk about, when you were younger, right? The time back when you were younger, right? And I think sometimes it's like stuff was just so hard for them back then. Like nobody wants to talk about the hurt, right? So instead of her literally talking and tell us about how hard times were, how she was treated, how her siblings were treated, or how her mother and father was treated back then, she rather focus on the positive, right? So I don't want to bring that negative energy forward. But I think with that being said, we do need to, even if they want to get rid of it, right? So we can't control what they do. They founded the country. They make the laws. They make the rules. So pretty much, you can do what you want to do. But what we have to do is have our own conversations, right? Our own conversations in our house, our own conversations online, so that if certain people want to get rid of it, try to erase it from history, that it don't die unless all of us die. You know what I mean? Like unless you erase the Black race, we're not gonna let you forget about it.
Bonnet, I'm at the beard. Now,
Why I gotta go after that?
right. I mean, you don't have to. I'm like, I can just move on. You know what I'm saying? If you want me to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sheesh.
I'm gonna go with what my wife said, man. They're afraid of change, right?
Good job. Good job. Support.
You've been teaching this subject for so long, and I think you said earlier, we've just been riding with it for so long and not saying anything. So why not just teach that Christopher Columbus was a great man, and not the fact that he murdered all these people? It's just showing the positive of, oh yeah, he discovered a country that was already discovered. So I mean, let's start there. And then it's funny how they want to ban an agenda that actually makes it better for everyone, but then you pushing for homosexuality in these comic books and these books for kids. Come on now. So like, what are we really doing? Yeah. And then too, they are changing the narrative of even like I seen, it's been some years ago where they were changing the narrative of slavery and saying that it was
indentured servants.
Indentured servants, yeah, man, come on now. Yeah. Came over here to work for a piece of change, make money for our families and whatnot. So you can't ban it, man. You can't ban CRT, bro. You got to teach the facts. Teach what this country really did to the people here. Teach how it came about. That's the only way that we're going to get better, is to learn about what we went through. Everybody.
I want to get to one of Crystal Hendricks' comments, and I think we can all agree with this comment here. But it's not a pushback, but it's kind of going back to our topic at hand for the night, where she says she feels that it's part of her responsibility to educate her Black kids on our history. Agree with that 100%. She gave a point to earlier that the majority of public school teachers in the U.S. are white, and she's aware that there are Black and people of color who teach in the public school system, but the majority are not. Frankly, she's fine with Black kids not being taught by a white person their version of history. Going back to the point where she said, it's her responsibility to teach her kids about our history. Like I said, I think all of us here on this set tonight agree with that 100%. But I work with some parents, man, that don't have the inkle of value of just Black period. If you got a business that if you selling some plates, they trying to get a cut on. And if you shortchange them a wing, or that fry was a little seasoned too much, then why don't deal with y'all niggas? Quick, right? And then we going here, social media, and we're putting it on blast. And me personally, I think part of that is conditioned from the concept of what we're talking about now. If I grew up in the projects and everything around me in the projects is just what it is, we ain't got to break down the projects. Everybody know what it is, whether we grew up in it or not. We know what that is. And then I get into a school system that has me 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, feed me my couple of little breakfast and lunch and everything. And when it gets to history, they're telling me, for one, that my ancestors came over here as indentured servants to look for jobs. And then when we get to Black History Month, only people I know about is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. And we'll give a little bit about Malcolm X, but he's a radical one. He's just trying to push the button too much, so we don't really talk about him that much. And then we cut it off. Like that's it. Now they may throw in Barack Obama because he was a president. So you guys had your first Black president, but that's cool. And that's it.
I mean, everything's white.
And that's it. And then everything else, it's catered to more about, the Christopher Columbus stories and everything else and that sort like that. So, it's like, I think it has to get to a point where, like David said, we got to have enough conversations ourselves, like tonight, like now, and spread it and keep it going. I commend everybody that's, whether in the comment, and you guys said, when you educate your kids at home. And I say even go beyond that, educate your little nieces and nephews and little cousins and everything. Because, like I said, they're only influenced by what they see and hear 24/7. And so it's just, that's my bout with it, man. Like even today, like I said, when I was talking to my kids, like some of them, they was in tune with me. Shoot, by 7 minutes in, they're like, all right,
done.
Like what else?
All right, we did it, man. Like, come on, what's our real lesson for today? Like, all right, they don't want us to learn. Okay, cool, we get it. But like, what I proved the point to them was like, some of y'all just last week I gave them a task to do, and it was like a lot. One girl said, I can't do this. I can't type no. This assignment asked me to type something that for 700 words need to be involved in it. I ain't never typed no 700 words. I can't do that. I said, did you listen to what you just said?
You just told us
never done it. So how do you know if you can or can't? Let's give it a shot, right? But if we just imagine if we were to teach our kids or have a curriculum that just focus on our Blackness and how people have overcome so many obstacles, I just wonder how many kids will just doubt themselves when they get tested this much in school and just turn themselves away and just like, what, that ain't me. I can't do that. That ain't a part of me. That ain't where I'm from. That's not expected of me to do those type of things. So I think that's what critical race theory for me, from what I've seen over my course of time being in school systems and everything, is just like it's affecting us in so much of a bad way, bro. Where it's like I look at our potential future, and I told some of them, I said, man, look here. I said, I hope none of y'all work in nursing homes. You know what I'm saying? My kids, decide to put me in one. I said, because I pull the plug on myself. I don't want to deal with this stuff, because y'all scare me. You know what I'm saying? It's just like what y'all value. It's just what you see is like what's right and wrong, bro. It's weird to me, bro.
To one of your points, you were saying they teach us about Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King. They tell us we should be like him and be all docile and everything. But it's like, y'all killed him too. So,
right.
Like, what do you want me to be like? As soon as he started preaching that the whole, I about to let my people into a burning building, that like, nah, he got to get up out of here. He got to go. Hey,
They won't
we
tell
let
you
you
that.
this whole peaceful thing. We let you do that. Let us run over you. You know, we'll throw you a crumb or two here. But as soon as you start going against the grain,
Hey,
yeah, you got to go. We gonna send one of your people to set you up.
they
It's
call it
crazy to
a
that
threat
same
against.
point.
They call
Go
it a
ahead.
threat against our democracy.
Yeah, yeah.
They had to protect democracy.
Right. And it like to that same point, like I was bringing up, like I said, mentioned the Rosa Parks thing. So one girl, she was like, Rosa Parks was the first one to sit down on the bus and boycott. I said, you're absolutely right. I said, do you know who it was? And so she couldn't remember the exact name. I said, there was a young girl up north. Her name was Claudette Colvin. I said she was 14 years old. I said, she boycotted. I said, do you understand why they didn't do it? Put her up in the front, to promote and pushing everything as being one of the first ones to do. I said, do you understand why they didn't do that? So she had like a whole other reason, huh?
That brown paper bag test, man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So when I was trying to school her on it, everybody looked like, oh dang, that makes sense why they would use Rosa Parks, because more of a fair skinned lady and a little more of age, already kind of involved in the community and everything. So hey, let's use this for the political bout.
Because you take a kid through those pressures, man. I don't think a kid will fold in that pressure.
Right. And so that's why I was trying to get her to understand. Like, I said, you could something like that. I said, outside of folding up under pressure, bro, she probably been dead.
Yeah.
She wouldn't even been around here. I said, so, but here again, we don't know these things in the history books, right? I said, I didn't find out about Claudette Colvin until I was almost graduated high school on my own. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yes,
but I'm not sure Brandy and Claudette was pregnant at the time. I think I did hear some.
She was pregnant.
Yeah,
she was pregnant.
So, Nico, I know you had some passionate opinions about Miss Condoleezza Rice and her statement and opinion that she had. And she said, I'll read it for you. So that you can just take off and go with that thing afterwards. She said, teaching critical race theory in school punishes white kids for being white and makes them feel bad. And so I also know she said that, she wants, just white and black people to just go to school, love each other, enjoy each other for who they are and not make white people feel guilty. Let's not impress and push upon hate by trying to push this critical race theory into perspective. She said she loved the blackness. She loved us to be black and be proud of our blackness. But let's not push this hate thing of what critical race theory does. Kind of the same thing that, I guess Governor Kay Ivey was saying as well too. So Nico, what you got? What's your point that, man?
I have a lot of aunties, so I ain't gonna say what I really want to call that woman, but
No.
But no, for real. But to what she was saying is, okay, so them learning about the stuff, little white kids learning about the things that happened in history that this country was founded on and everything that's taught today. You don't think little black kids start to hate themselves and start to think differently mentally once they got to learn every time about the Atlantic slave trade, how they came over and buckled in chains and had to work on slave plantations, do whatever masters say, build a country on their backs. They see that year in and year out. Literally, that's in the text every year. How do you think that makes them feel? And you worried about guilt tripping some kids for actually learning what truly happened? Like, try living what's happening. Like, slavery didn't go anywhere. Like, lynching didn't go anywhere. They just changed the method of doing it. Like, you see on Facebook every year, every 2-3 weeks, there's another black person dead at the hands of police. And Facebook ain't gonna censor it. They're gonna show you. But if I tell a joke that's a little too racist, they're gonna take away my privileges. But we can see people dying in the street all the time. That has unless they're white. You're not gonna see that one. Then, like, what effect does that have mentally on us as a whole? Like, I think the whole guilt trip thing is a cop out, and you're trying to push another agenda because you like who's paying you, who's lining your pockets to not want your people to learn about themselves and that other people learn about themselves so that we can move forward.
Y'all got anything else, man? That man, he took care of Condoleezza by himself.
He did that.
He did that, did he?
Did that.
I like one comment I saw in the comment thread by, I think it was Teresa Parker. She said, "But we must all understand, change isn't change unless you yourself changed." I mean, I think if we had to sum up the show and end it at that point, I think that does it. You know what I'm saying? Even if we got some other points to talk about, but I think that's like a very I think that kind of solidifies everything that we're talking about today, man. As far as like if the core of this country is built and founded on our backs and racism and segregation, and like it's talking about with critical race theory, where you have policies and procedures and things that are structured to continue that foundation to move forward. I mean, it makes sense that hey, if I want to eliminate critical race theory, that means me myself has not changed that much. I'm gonna give you another narrative of the truth. Where we can twist it to say, we understand the importance of it, but that's not who we really are. You're trying to push hate, and you're trying to have our future kids to feel a certain type of way because you're pointing out all these bad things that people that look like me have done. And so it's like, yeah, but what about the other folks who've been oppressed this whole time as well too? That don't matter. We just keep on going.
I asked one question though, T. I asked one question to Marcus.
Yeah.
As an educator, if it's completely removed from our educational school system, right? What do you tell a black child and they come out and ask you, how do we get here, or why do they not look like me, or how do you explain to them their culture or their foundation or how they get there as an educator, and they come to you and ask that? But as an educator, with that completely being removed from our school system, you may potentially lose your job by relaying the correct or that information, right? So how do you deal with it? See it goes a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper than what we just skimming the surface right now, right?
Right.
Because we have to look at not only the impact that it has now, but the impact it's going to have on future generations, right?
So,
and Miss Evan made a great comment, right? She said, "Why Black history, right? But erase Black history." So it's more or less, let's erase all the bad. We want to erase all the bad in the Black history and just give you all the positive. But
right.
I think some of the bad, and we're gonna get to this as well, some of the bad, like you said, it explains, our mental state as it is today. Why we feel certain ways, why we perceive things to be a different way, because man, it's just been that way for so long, and oftentimes things want to get swept under the rug or pushed aside and not talked about per se. But when you go and tell someone who doesn't understand is why this person who doesn't look like me hates me, and I've done nothing wrong, right? I've done nothing to them, but they dislike me for some reason, right? Because even if we're not teaching it on our end, somebody else is teaching their child on their end to feel a different way about somebody with our skin tone.
Right. And to answer your question, man, like when I was principal in my school I had up in Montgomery, right? So one thing I started to do every morning before we got started with class, I would do a historical Black fact. And so that would just be any interesting fact that's out there that even some teachers didn't know, some of the parents didn't know, and of course the kids didn't know. Like things such as the traffic light, the ironing board, the folding chair, the elevator, all like these different things that we use and see on a day-by-day basis. I'm like, hey, one of us created that, right? And the reason why I did that because the school that I had was located on one of the worst sides of Montgomery. So I had a lot of kids who coming in with a already boxed in perception of who we are as Black people and what we're supposed to be. And so and every day I always try to make sure they understood that, this is not trying to say that we're better than white or white better than us, but I'm trying to even the playing lane here, right? Kind of let you guys know that, that you know, Doe B and anybody else that y'all know that's from the hometown of Montgomery, you know, everything he rapped about and all this other stuff, but where you may live, that's not all that's to us. We're more than that. And so to understand that if people hate us, there's something about them, something about you that they envy, right? You know, most times when people hate, it's come from jealousy. You know, it's just about the fact that you have something that I really want to have. I wish I could do and everything else like that. So then we take off and go from there. I just hate you for it, despise you. And so I'm not trying to teach the kids to hate a white person or anything like that, but just let them know, stand proud for who you are. You're more than what these textbooks are telling you in regards to what our history is. So it's my job and educators here in this school to give you that. I don't even care about the fact you're not getting it at home. I know you're not getting it at home because when I do these little historical black facts up in the front, your parents are like, I didn't know that neither. Right. That's what we're here for. So now hopefully we can get y'all to have these dialogues and conversations at home to where we can, you know, empower us a little bit more. And so like to Glenroy's point, you know, it does start at home. He said school system only conduit to become indoctrinated into societal standards that may or may not be congruent to cultural norms. No disagreement on that. But like for the sake of tonight, though, we have to be mindful of it. It does start at home, but I can only give you the education that I have too from home.
Right. So I can't teach you what I don't know.
We teach you everything.
And then quick little sidebar right quick, because I just thought about this after the fact. So a lot of people that's against CRT always be like, get over it. You know what I'm saying? It's happened so long ago. None of us living with slaves. None of us living with like enslaved you. We don't like stop all that craziness. First of all, like it's easy. You never hear anybody say to a Jewish person, get over the Holocaust. Ever.
Never.
Tell us to get over slavery.
Never.
And then let's talk about reparations. Holocaust survivors got reparations. U.S. ain't paid a dime to one black person for slavery. But you want to tell us to get over?
They can't.
They couldn't. Like they would have to give us America.
We'll become the poorest country in the world if they did that.
Yeah.
I want to kind of shift gears, man, because we kind of touched on it earlier when we were just having our little talk about the show and everything. And again, this is before I ask this question, for all of those that are watching the show that have attended HBCUs, graduate of HBCUs, whether it's 1, 2, 3 times over, we are not bashing HBCUs at all. Like we all said, at some point, all of us got accepted to go to HBCUs. We just chose to go a different route and everything like that. So I know me and Bonnie's reason a little bit more the same. We knew and I'll tell anybody, I would have failed if I went to HBCU.
Miserably.
Like before midterms came out, I would have failed. That's how I just know. But anyway, so you know, and the question I'm asking, I think it does stem from the perceptions that are giving off of everything that we're talking about tonight. When we're talking about black businesses, black institutions, whether that's K through 12, private, charter, and even higher education, as we're talking about HBCU. So why and I could say at some point, I probably wouldn't say it so much now, but why at some point was there I see eyeballs already, somebody already like, yeah, they ready. Got to say. But why is there a perception from some when it comes to talking about HBCUs that they shouldn't be your first choice when it comes to furthering your education from K through 12 setting? Why do y'all think that's the case?
Fellas.
First off,
he's scared.
I reserve the right to answer that question at a later date.
Right.
Let me get my attorney present.
I think it just has the fact to do with, man, you know, kind of like what we were just talking about earlier. Like, you don't always, I ain't gonna say not everybody, but some people don't see the value in it. So you may perceive them as not being educated or not on the same level as some of these PWIs. Depending on what you want to go to school for, I wouldn't depending on what you want to go to school for, I think you should pick a school for their focus or what they're good at, not just because they're HBCU or what have you. Go for what you're trying to do. Who's gonna give you the best advantage? So that's why I didn't choose. I chose to go where I felt like I have the advantage.
Okay. Murray, you got anything to add to it?
You had to ask me a more direct question, like why didn't I choose to go to the HBCU?
Okay, so why did you not choose to go? Why didn't you choose to go to HBCU, sir?
Honestly, to me, it was, it was just with the question you posed before, right? It was that perception, right? I never knew that there were so many pristine universities, and with that title of the HBCU. I did have the perception in mind that most HBCUs were more party schools, not really educational institutions. So I knew coming out of high school that I wanted to position myself and put myself in the best possible situation to succeed, right? Knowing that, to possibly put myself in a situation where I would maybe be that party animal or, fall into that trap. I didn't want to put myself in that situation. And it's kind of like you said, it was just my perception coming out of school that's what HBCUs are all about, right? You're going to come, you're going to have a good time. And by the way, the graduation rate is 70%, right? So, whereas this institution over here, well, we have a graduation rate of about 85 or 90% of our people who attend graduate. So that's pretty much how it was coming out. Looking back for potentially, when I look back to see where I was going to go to like get my master's. Man, we just get so much bad press, right? And to the fact that our business is always in the news for people to see, because I just be honest with you, we know this happened at a lot of institutions all around, right? But it never makes the paper, right? So we don't see it in the paper, or it never comes out, right? It never leaves the boardroom what potentially took place at that institution. So I think it may be purposely put out there like that or leaked so they can be looked at in that negative fashion. So
if you control the media, you control the narrative. So they always gonna put what they want you to see out.
You control the media, you control the world.
Right.
So let me ask y'all: do any of you guys regret not going? I see Crystal said she regret not going to a HBCU, but do any of y'all regret not going to one?
Being where I am in life, I would say I don't regret it. Would I go back and say I would attend one if I could go back knowing what I know now? You know what I mean? So because you have to I think you have to know yourself as well. You know what I mean? For me, I would not put myself in a situation where I feel like I wouldn't have succeeded, and I just didn't feel like that was the best place for me at the time. But I was not there mentally, right? Like I was not there to succeed in an environment like that.
I'm gonna come back to that question in a second. Portia, can you in the comments? She said a controller at a company she worked for in the past instructed the director to not hire anyone from ASU, which is Alabama State University of Montgomery, Alabama. For those that's not from this area,
There it is.
That's crazy, right?
Remember we talked about last night?
Yeah. Portia, if you could, is there any
don't
way?
Don't drop a name, Portia. Don't tell a name.
No name drop.
No name. Let's tell them what happened.
We're gonna drop the show immediately, right there to there. But is there any way that you possibly could? Is there any you can elaborate more on that? What was the reason they said not to hire anyone from ASU? From there.
I think it probably got to do with So kind of what we're talking about, right? You want to. Some schools is just not their focus. Like I know when my wife was looking at going to nursing schools, Tuskegee was on the cusp of losing their accreditation for nursing, and so, and I think it was just about them not using. They wasn't using something. They weren't doing something right. But anyway, so if you're going to school for nursing and you hear a school's about to lose their accreditation, the chance of you choosing that school is very small. And then as far as a job, I guess what Portia talking about is, where did the output? Yeah, these kids are graduating, but when they get in the work field, what are they doing? Are they knowledgeable of what they say they know? Even though, let's be honest, most people that go into these fields really don't know what they're doing. As entry level, the company pretty much should teach you what you want to know. But if they coming out and not really, if that company is just hiring people that are not productive in that job, I mean, it only take like one or two bad apples, man, and they just gonna write off everybody coming from that area. I mean, it just is what it is.
So
in my opinion.
So Portia answered my second follow-up question to it, which she said the reason why they said it was probably because there was an investigation into the accounting department, but she said that was a predominantly white company. And I was about to ask, was the company white, or was that controller a white person or not? And here's my problem I have with it. What school has not had any of the issues that we're talking about? Losing accreditation, some department being up on the investigation, whatever it may be. You can't tell me there's not one school, whether it's a PWI or HBCU, that has not had the same issues at everywhere that it is across the board. But the root of it is, I think what Nico and Bonnie pointed out was, and it still goes back to what we're talking about now, media. Yeah. I'm gonna put these black schools and everything up first. The smaller schools, the black schools and everything else, I'm gonna put them out there front and first. If it was an Auburn University or something like that, or heck, South Alabama, I may not know about it unless I'm like digging in the newspaper or digging on the.
They'll probably be in there, but you're gonna really have to search for it.
I got to look for that thing. It's not gonna be a headline.
It's gonna be on the front page.
It's not gonna be a headline. So think about that again, man. If that's something that is there, then what does that do for me as a 15, 16-year-old who's looking to come out of high school and got to make a choice in the next year or two to go to college? I'm not going to be enticed to go there. You just did your job. Checkmate. I'm not worried about HBCU. And you got to think about it, man. Like going into the question I asked earlier. Like honestly, for me, I do regret not going to HBCU because one of the reasons I wanted to go was just for the culture in itself. Because coming up in high school, been to a couple campuses and everything, and loved it. The homecoming, all the jazz, everything that it was about. So I loved it, and I felt that I could learn more about myself and the culture that it could give me about myself that I didn't have coming up in the K-12 setting, living in the good old town of Opelika, Alabama. But I also knew at the same time, and I ain't gonna lie, I when I took the one of my last trips, I took the visit. I went to Alabama State, and I was on campus walking around like, hey, this dope. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at all the stuff, looking at the names of the dorms and all this everything. So I went to one of the boys' dorms, and they showed me the bathrooms. I said, where's the individual showers? Where are we going? And it's like, no, this is like, I said, everybody use this thing? She's like, yeah, yes, sir. I said, okay. All right, so I ain't say nothing. I got back in the car, but I'll head back to Montgomery. So, nah, it's over with. I'll head back to home. I'll come visit over there on campus all the time, which we did. And, it still almost got us in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, looking back on it, I mean, come on, dog. That's a simple sacrifice, right? You know what I'm saying? But I guess that just coming up in a household where all my siblings had grown up by themselves. I'm used to having my own toilet and everything else like that. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't ready for that. I don't know these dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't ready for that life. But at the end of the day, man, I just, and it's something now that even for my girls, especially my oldest, I just try to give them the history of these schools now, understand why they're here and why you should entertain the notion of these being one of your options of going to school. Because I didn't even get that as, that was a lot of stuff I just kind of did on my own, so just looking into HBCUs and everything, just because I was interested in our history and just going from there with it. Somebody said they have a daughter that's in 9th grade and have started introducing her to HBCUs. She first saw a documentary about HBCUs on BET in the 8th grade and asked about them because she only hear about Auburn and Alabama. That's true. That's an unfortunate truth.
Yeah.
Especially
I also think one thing that should be pointed out is, and we discussed it as well, you should also look at an institution that's going to cater to what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, right? What you're trying to be educated on, and that's whether it be a HBCU or a different institution. Because just to say I'm gonna go to HBCU just for the history and just to say I went to Howard University, but I'm trying to enter, like you said, an engineering program or a nursing program, and knowing that their nursing program is the last in the nation. Like,
yeah.
Come on, you're setting yourself up for failure here.
Right.
You don't want to. You still want to be. You're going to college, right? You want to be smart enough to know is what I'm going to college for. I'm trying to set myself up and put myself in a better position to succeed in the future, right? I'm not going to school to play games. I'm not going to school to party hard. That's just a part of the atmosphere when you get there, but that shouldn't be your primary focus. At least that's how I look at it.
I don't regret not going.
That's what I'm telling my kids.
Like living where I live now, like with WSSU right down the road, A&T around the corner, and then Central like an hour away. Just the culture up here, I really regret not going back. On the other hand, I wasn't gonna do no work anyway, so don't need to waste that type of button.
But I was just joking.
So the degree that I chose, the degree that I was interested in, was only offered at UAB.
Right.
So the only schools in the South that has a biomedical engineering program is what I went to school for. The only schools in the South that has that program are UAB, Ole Miss, and Georgia Tech. That's it. So I chose that field because I like math, I like science. No other way to put it. So if I could have went to HBCU, I probably would have chose HBCU because I came into school a little bit later on in life. So I went to the military first and then decided to come to college. So I really didn't party that too much, if any. Not really for real. I was really focused on my education, so I don't read about it now.
Yeah, that joke was a grown man already. When you
I thought about it for a master's just to say I did it, and just to go be in the culture, but it didn't work out.
I think for me, man, as all of us have kids, I think it's important for all of us, and even all of us that's watching the show, man, at least put HBCUs, at least just put it in their head. Because I go back to, like I said, when I was a principal, when I asked, one of the questions was about HBCUs. And I had the kids like, list, give me the HBCUs that you know of. And one cat said, Florida? I said,
you tell them what HBCU stands
I said, break it in. He's like, what's wrong, Mr. Mudd? I said, don't you ever say that out loud again in your life. Okay.
He just thought the rest of it, man.
I said, no, I didn't accept that because you stay in Montgomery. You born and raised in Montgomery, my guy, 14 years old, and you didn't know that school right across the street of the Alabama State University is an HBCU? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what the term stood for?
I know.
Huh?
Do you know what the term stood for? I seen that on. I think my wife was telling me about that. That this guy had his. I think he had a PhD, but he didn't know what HBCU stood for.
Yeah,
and he was going off on this girl because he felt like she should have used the entire phrase HBCU. I mean, historical black college instead of shortening it.
Oh,
a lot of people call the girl lazy for saying HBCU instead of saying it out.
But see, that's what I'm saying, man. That's not understanding the culture. And again, going back to when we talk about this whole thing of CRT, that's what CRT is going to do and has been doing. It's going to eliminate those things and push it to the back. and then you're gonna have more kids coming up, more generations is coming about, and they're going to have less value for the black people as a culture. And in a nutshell, they're gonna let what's happening already. They're gonna let the internet teach them. Which is a problem.
Quick question. All right, so the white people, Caucasians, whatever you want to call them at this time, aren't actually procreating at the rate they were. So, like, they're becoming the minority in the world. Do you think that has anything to do with them not wanting to teach critical race theories? Thinking like, okay, we're going to be the minority, and they're going to stop wanting equality one day and just want revenge. Do you think that's part of the reason, or could be?
It'd be only minority by number standpoint, but not financially.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all that matters.
No, they are in places. They are in a lot of places we are not, and they bring their people along with them so they stay in those places.
It was more towards the second part of it. Like, do you think like did they fear revenge instead of just wanting equality and want to know the history if that critical race series actually taught?
No. But and I say here's why, right? Most people that have the money have the power.
Absolutely.
So if they are,
he's thinking about a revolution over here.
Hey, man,
that ain't gonna happen.
I just watched Malcolm X saying Nat Turner, man. I'm ready to.
Because for one, let's put it out there. They gonna band together.
Right.
So
why can't we band together?
Why we can't? You stole it out of my mouth. I was about to say.
Why aren't we banding together?
We just choose
CRT. CRT.
Educate yourself.
So I think for tonight, man.
Crabs in the bucket, man. Crabs in the bucket.
I think. Hey, give that quick analogy real quick, Demeric, with that. With the crabs in the bucket thing, as far as about. I mean, we hear that a lot, right? Crab in the bucket mentality. We always pulling each other down. But can you give the little nugget that you gave us last night when we were just talking about all this stuff, man?
So to me, I think Nico made a comment and saying something about Jay-Z said, who put crabs in the bucket to begin with. But you also have to understand that crabs they eat their own, for one, and they're always fighting and pulling each other to show dominancy. So it don't matter what place they're in; they're always gonna be pulling and nagging each other. If they're in each other's space, they do like to be near each other. But if you try to do more than me, or you try to outshine me, then we're gonna fight. But also, I was thinking about this last night, right? If you look at that crabs in the bucket, like who says it has to be something about negative, right? If I'm a crab in the bucket and I'm making my way out, and the other crab reaching up, why do we have the mindset that the other crab is trying to pull him down because he's making it out? For badness, you know what I'm saying? Trying to hold him down. Why isn't it, hey man, where you going? Let me go too. Why isn't that the mindset? You know what I'm saying? Because that is also something you don't see in the community a lot, right? So if somebody coming up, they don't always look back and pull each other up. Say, hey, I got this great opportunity. Let me tell you about it. So
let me stop you from making this mistake. Like,
don't
go outside that bucket. They cooking them out there.
Right. Right.
You might want to stay in here, bro. You might want to stay in here with us.
So I don't think it's always
Jimmy got split up in a ham, boy.
I don't think it should be a negative connotation to that, right? It should be. Why it can't be positive?
Right.
Hey, bro, pull me along too. I see you going in the right direction. Let me follow you.
But you know what? I think that goes back to, man. And we can kind of get ready to wrap this thing up with that point that you made, and I'll just add on to it though, Demeric. Like our education system, and I cannot find the article for the life of me, but I read it where they said there was an article from a young lady up in the Northeast back in the 1800s, and she said, the education system that we have, we're creating it to keep the beast tamed in the 1800s. So when the education system was just get started and founded in the United States of America, and they're to keep the beast tamed, who else was the beast during that time? It was us, right? So whatever that we put out as far as the educational system, we're going to do it to where we can keep this division amongst the two races that are currently here right now in this country. So it to me, it makes perfect sense to the point what you made about with it should be something where, yeah, I'm trying to get out, but I want to pull you up. We're already conditioned to think that, no, bro, you're trying to put me back in here because we all
Right,
strapped
exactly.
for each other down here at the bottom. It makes perfect sense. So I think it is a perfect segue and direct understanding of why I think all of us tonight, after we leave, however that we possibly can, do your own versions of create critical race theory in your homes to where you educating your kids and we educating ourselves too, because there's still a lot of stuff out there that we don't know, right? But educate ourselves to the point, man, where we are, we can change that concept of crab in the bucket mentality, where when we go back to that bucket, I'm pulling you up and I'm gonna show you, bro, this ain't the way, because we got another path over here that we taking, right? So we can make a difference and combat the narrative that's being put out, because the critical race theory, in my opinion, I think of all of us here, it's not spewing out hate at all. It's putting out the truth, the whole truth, not just 75% of it or 64, the entire truth of all the stories and narratives that we have seen in front of us, but we may have just not just take a layer off and said, oh, snap, that's really what happened. So I think that's our job tonight, man, and to go forward from there to make sure that we do our best, man, to keep our people moving forward. And regardless of how much they may try to push, because there are some cities and states that are actually having an African-American curriculum in their school systems. I know there was someone I know here locally who's trying to find a way to get a curriculum within the school systems here. And I told her, hey, I support you. I said, but we are in the town of Mayberry now. So, all these folks, they like, that sounds good and grand, but we are perfectly fine with K through 12. And they're gonna shake your hand and kick you on out. You know what I'm saying? So
Why you sound like K over there?
I've been practicing that thing, dog. You know what I'm talking about? But go ahead. Somebody else had something?
I think
I'm waiting for the final thoughts, man.
Okay. I think that's it, man. Like I said, at the end of the day, let's make sure we can try to change the narrative. We know how critical race theory and things of that nature has affected us from yesterday and still does a little bit today. But it's up to us to do things like we did tonight and everything else moving forward as much as we possibly can to change that narrative moving forward. Because we got kids that are coming up behind us. They're going to have kids and kids and kids. Let's continue to plant those seeds, man, so we can continue to change the narrative and continue to see us rise as a people as a whole. Y'all got anything else?
I'll just give my final thoughts. For me, I say, I know a lot of people commented that, education starts at home, but we also have to take into account how much time our kids spend at school. A lot of time they spend at home, they in the bed asleep, or you've not made it home from work yet, right? So just look at the amount of time that your kids spend at school and the amount of time that you have to sit down with your child and relay whatever information you want to relay to them. Also, let's look around us, right? Let's look at our neighbors. Let's look at our friends. If they're not doing a good job with relaying the information that their child may need, let's talk to them about it. Let's kind of give them that information, because one thing I like to see in the future, even just within our education system, right? You won't be able to teach a child how to get out of their environment if you're not showing them anything different. So I'll say let's push the education system. Let's push education change in education, but for the better, not to be removing things, but just to be adding things to the education system that's going to benefit people that's trying to come out the slums, right? Trying to get out of poverty. Why are we just talking about, like you say, reading, writing, arithmetic? But what about this problem I got at home, right? How do I deal with my mother and father fighting every day, or how do I deal with not having how do I deal with being in a single parent household in general, right? So let's push the narrative on helping our youth helping our kids. And it's gonna take a bunch of parents, a bunch of us, standing up and asking for it, because they ain't gonna give it to us, right? You won't get anything that you don't ask for, so we're gonna have to go ask for it. We're gonna have to demand it.
Anybody else?
I say on the narrative of on the CRT, man. I do agree with old Mary there. I mean, we have a limited time at home. We have to find that time to teach our kids and learn it yourself. Some people don't know it themselves, so they tend to they stray away from it, but they don't know it themselves. So try to find a time to teach your kids. I got to do a better job of that myself. In all honesty, I got to teach my kids, more about Black history and reach back and help others, man. Except the crab and bucket thing, man. It's not just a bad thing of, hey, I'm gonna hold him down. Hey, man, let me ride your coattail. So let's change that outlook, man, and help one another in any way we can. It don't have to be financial.
My final thought, instead of having the crab in the bucket mentality, have the same energy that you have with the Caucasian person in a position of power. Have that same energy towards your brother. Respect this person in a position of power, but you'll be ready to be your brother if he disrespect you. So let's have the same energy over there. That way we can all come together. We can start to trust each other and start to build up. And once we build up, we can become powerful ourselves. Just got to get the financial backing and the support of each other. And like I say, every week.
Hold on, before you say that.
Oh, my bad.
I saw somebody said something over here. Also, let me add this. Look, there's a note that I saw today. So those of you, especially in Alabama, pay attention to what's going on in Alabama, right? They're finna redistrict Alabama due to the census, right? But I just see this as a form of gerrymandering. They are going to change the district lines in order to help their political gain. It's not going to be for the betterment of the people. It's not going to be for the census. They're doing it in the claim of the census, but watch what happens in the next election.
When is it ever not for political gain?
Yeah, I'm just
and that's how they keep, and that's to the point you're talking about with the money. That's how they keep the money in their pockets. They keep it positioned where they want it to do, and they get to put the money and build what they want to. So we got to start paying attention to this stuff way more than what we have in the past.
Because I saw somebody say something about local officials, man. Them local officials are important.
Oh, that was me, Jameer. I'm sorry. That was me.
Oh, my fault.
That's all right.
Yeah. But anyway.
Take us out, Nico.
Yeah. I was thinking something else, but I just lost my train of thought when Demir said that because I had to think about it for a minute. But think about everything we said today. Go back and watch it a couple of times. Like, see how this really affects you mentally. Like how it has affected you mentally, and how it would how your mental state will affect the other people coming up. And let's come together and make better choices and be the change we so often seek. Also, if you're not mentally okay, it's okay to not be okay. Just don't stay there. Try to get some help. And I love you. I hope you have a great day on and with purpose. See y'all next episode.
Peace.